Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and Alyx King here on this Monday, October the 15th, 2018, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, your second daily dose of happy for the day. And Patty Framo contacted me just about 15 minutes ago saying she had flown in from San Francisco and to borrow from the old joke, boy, are her arms tired. In fact, they're so tired that she is actually feeling a little under the weather. So interesting thing happened, though, because Wendy Dillard, who, of course, does the Tuesday and Thursday afternoon podcast with me, is moving on to other things. She's going to start her own podcast, actually. And she wants to kind of go in a different direction from what we do here on LOA Today, although she'll still be a supporter for quite some time to come, I'm sure. That's what she was telling me. But because of that, I've been interviewing and reaching out, finding new people to join me for doing the Tuesday and Thursday afternoon podcasts. And toward that end, I actually interviewed a woman this afternoon named Alyx King, who is going to be one of the co-hosts for the Tuesday afternoon time slot. And after we got off the phone, amazingly, I got a text from Patty saying, hey, I'm not feeling well. I don't think I'm up to doing the podcast. Sorry, can you get by without me? And so I just got off the phone with Alyx. I called her back and said, hey, Alyx, would you like to do a podcast this afternoon? She said yes, and here we are. So, Alyx King, welcome to LOA Today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I mean, talk about a quick introduction. You did an interview, a half an hour ago, and all of a sudden, boom, you're on the podcast. I don't think either one of us expected that, but just goes to show the universe has our back, and bang, it was a perfect timing, perfect play, and there we are. It's great.
Very true. Very true.
It's amazing. So before we get into finding out more about who Alyx King is, we want to get our promos in like we've been doing lately toward the beginning of the podcast. First and foremost, if you're not yet a subscriber, please do become one. The instructions on how to do so are on the homepage of our website at loatoday-net. And especially if you're new to us, that's probably why you're not a subscriber, because our regular listeners, they are subscribers, and they listen very regularly and very loyally. I mean, Alyx, literally, we've got people who listen to 40 to 45 episodes a month. That's how loyal our listeners are. And
wow.
We're ever so grateful to them. They're just fabulous people. And we've had a chance to talk to some of them, too, because sometimes we get a phone call or we get an email or whatever. I even had a chance to meet two of them in person, believe it or not. There are a couple listeners here in the
awesome.
Hartford, Connecticut area. Yeah, and I got to meet them. My wife and I both met them, and they're great people. I mean, it's so cool. I mean, I still get goosebumps thinking about all these really cool people who are our listeners. We love every one of them. So, yeah, if you're not yet a subscriber, trust me, you really want to become one, because we're doing 11 episodes a week. That works out to almost 50 episodes a month, and you're going to want every single one of them because they're all so cool, so interesting. Right now we've got 8 co-hosts, actually going to be 9 co-hosts very soon, and probably 10 or 11 by the time we're done for those 11 episodes a week. So you're going to get all kinds of really interesting perspectives about the law of attraction and about life in general. So make sure you're a subscriber. And again, if you're not technically inclined, not sure how to do it, just go to the homepage of our website at loatoday.net. And then the other message that we always put out to our existing subscribers as well as the new ones is please help us continue to get the word out. The law of attraction is working in our favor. It is paying off. Since we started doing the second promo about 3 months ago, we've doubled the listenership. We're averaging around 200 listens per episode. Last month, overall, we had over 12,000 downloads. I mean, just really fabulous. Alyx, to give you an idea, about a year ago this time of year, we were up around 1,000 downloads for the month. Last month we had 12,000. That shows you what kind of growth we've had in the last year. It's been just crazy, just darn crazy. But we're loving it, and we want to.
Amazing.
It is amazing. It is. And so we please continue to put out those messages on Facebook and on Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn or any other social media channel that is your channel of preference, because the law of attraction is getting the word out there. And plus the social media algorithms help too. But nevertheless, people find it who you don't even know. And that's what's so cool. That's how the law of attraction works. So there's our promo messages for the day. And now we get to find out and learn about our new co-host, Alyx King. Who is Alyx King? Tell us who Alyx is.
Who is Alyx King? Wow, that is a loaded
It
question.
certainly is, and it was
Um,
intentionally so, I might add.
well, I'm a loner. But I do enjoy time with my family.
Hmm.
They're spread around the East Coast, so I don't get to see them often. But we FaceTime and all that good stuff.
Mm.
I actually am an Aspie, so I have Asperger's.
Oh.
So I function with that on the daily, and
And,
you
and,
know,
and
a bunch of
and
other.
for someone who doesn't know
Yes,
exactly what that is, what is Asperger's? I mean, how does that affect you? What is it? What's the impact that it has on your life?
Asperger's is a higher functioning form of autism.
Okay.
So basically, I have issues with like sensory things, like if like God forbid someone's chewing too loud,
Wow.
that'll set me off, like little things like that. So that I go through on the daily that I have to deal with, and it's difficult in the ways of like overthinking things. Like we have problems with racing thoughts and dealing with let me see, how do I describe it? Um, Rehearsing conversations before and after they happen.
Mm.
So that's running through my mind while I'm trying to sleep. I don't get a lot of sleep. I'm a highly terrible insomniac.
Wow. Well, it sounds to me like you're
So I'm
very
always
highly
up.
skilled insomniac. It sounds like you're really good at it, actually.
I'm part of what they call the sleepless elite.
Oh my. Oh my. Well, note to self: no eating during the podcast. We don't want to set Alyx off. Okay, got that one covered.
Yeah. You can eat as long as you don't chew with your mouth
You don't
open.
chew your
That's
mouth
what
open, right? I don't think you have to have Asperger's to have that set you off. That sets my teeth on edge, so I get that entirely.
Oh, I know. It's like nail on a chalkboard. Oh, I can't.
It's funny too. You talk about rehearsing your conversations before and afterward. I do the same thing. I've never been diagnosed with
Really?
Asperger. Oh yeah, especially after the fact. Yeah, it drives
Yeah.
me nuts how often I do that. I actually do it a lot less than I used to. I did some mirror exercises
Hmm.
that cut down on a lot of my negative self-talk and so forth, and that's one of the side effects that tendency reduced significantly. But I still have it, and I rehearse a lot of my conversations if they're important ones. If they're something where I'm a little concerned there might be some tension or some sort of frustration or whatever, I will rehearse them, and I'm learning
Oh,
not
see, I
to.
rehearse every conversation.
You do
Like,
everyone? Okay.
even saying hi to people, how I say hi to people, when they're going to ask me how my day is, what is my response, stuff like that.
Hmm.
It's the littlest thing I go over.
Wow. Well, it actually is kind of warming to me to know somebody else does the same thing I do.
Yeah, it's great to know you're not alone.
Right, exactly. Okay. Well, thanks for introducing us to what Asperger's is all about. So, who else is Alyx King?
Alyx King is a puppy parent.
Ooh,
I, yes, I have two dogs. They're service dogs, actually. They
no
are
kidding.
Rusty and Chloe.
Ah,
Rusty is a Yorkie,
uh-huh.
so he's very small, and Chloe is a Chihuahua. And ironically, they're both service dogs, but they don't look like service dogs. So I get a lot of grief when I go out, but it's
Right.
it's fine.
Yeah, yeah. How old are they?
Rusty just turned 10 a week ago,
Oh, okay.
and Chloe is 8.
Okay. So you've had them for a while. That's great.
Yes, I've had him for a long time.
We're actually cat people here, so I hope you won't hold that against us. But we have two black cats.
Ooh, wow. Yeah, I'm allergic, so I'm not coming over.
Well, shoot, we're going to have you over for dinner and everything. Oh, well. No, I wouldn't put you through that. Actually, my sister-in-law is also allergic to cats, so we always have to kind of like cat-proof the house whenever she and my
Yeah,
brother-in-law
but
come over.
even then,
Yeah.
that's not enough.
No, well, she always just juices herself up with all the antihistamines and stuff like that, so she's usually okay. But
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I'll take some Benadryl and then see what
right,
I can do.
yep, yep, I hear you. No, well, I won't put you through that, I promise. So okay, so you're
Okay.
a dog person then. That's good. That's good.
Yes, I am. I'm a big dog person.
And you've known about the law of attraction for a while. We didn't get a chance really to talk about that during our interview, but what's your experience and background with LOA?
It started years ago. Before I was started dealing with my mental health issues, I was working for a woman who was in the hair industry. I was a hairstylist for 15 years.
Oh,
So that's another tidbit.
yeah.
So I was working with her, going around the country, helping to teach other hairstylists how to use the company's products.
Oh, okay.
So with doing that, she introduced me to The Secret,
Ah,
and that's how I got started. So
yeah.
I was about 22, I want to say, and
Uh-huh.
I'm 30, going to be 35 on Wednesday. So
Oh, happy birthday.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's great. So yeah, The Secret. A lot of people. I got exposed to Law of Attraction through The Secret first. So I think a lot of
Yeah.
people have gone that route. Yeah, I got exposed to it in November 2007, and
Mhm.
it was one of those things. I was a very left-brained. I think I told you when we were interviewing that I had an IT background. I was
Mhm.
that kind of a person and very skeptical of the whole thing. I was intrigued by it, and a part of me wanted to believe it because it just made a lot of sense. But there was a part of me
It
that
did.
that just kind of said, no, no, like, this can't be. So I had this little duality going on, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah. I totally get it.
actually, The Secret created more questions than it did answers. It wasn't until I started reading Abraham Hicks that's when I started to really fill in the gaps and understand
Okay.
it. Yeah. But that took me a few years. I
Yeah,
didn't
see,
even
I'm
know
not
about
big of
them.
a reader, so when the actual The Secret video came out,
Hmm.
that's when I was like, oh, okay, I can do a DVD all day.
Oh,
But
okay.
I'm just not into reading about things unless it's on my Facebook. That's
So did
it.
you get the original that had Esther Hicks in it, or did you get the revised one that came out shortly after it?
The original.
You got the original. Wow, so you have one of the original
Yeah,
copies. Those are the rare ones.
yeah.
Yeah, I actually have both copies. I ended up getting finally a copy of the original, but they only printed like, I don't know, 100,000 of those or something like that, and then they were gone and you couldn't get them anymore. So good for you for
Yeah,
hanging on to
yeah,
yours.
exactly.
Yeah. So have you ever done anything studying Esther Hicks, Abraham Hicks?
I have not. I
You
have
haven't.
not.
Oh, okay. Well, you're going to get quite the education then, because most of the co-hosts here are Abraham people, and I've learned a
Oh,
lot about
okay.
Abraham too. So yeah, you're going to get a lot of stuff from Abraham just by hearing what we talk about. So
Good.
yeah, it's going to
I
be
love
good.
to learn.
So how do you what's your do you have any favorite LOA stories? Anything you had a really successful manifestation or something that was really meaningful? Anything like that you'd like to tell about?
I had something very recent, and I was thinking about this last night. So it's very ironic that this whole situation right now is happening.
Oh, good.
I saw on Facebook there was this ad for this holographic backpack,
Hmm.
and it's like it's the way they designed it. It hits the light a certain way, and it changes colors depending on what type of light you're in or whatever. And I
No.
was like, "Oh my god, I want it!" And my mother and I went to I live in Hyannis, and they opened up the main street for the customers, so that
Mm.
you could walk the streets and go to any store you wanted to, and they had the backpack there. And I was like, oh, I should get it. But then I was like, do I really want to spend the money? And I was like, because I'm very cheap. So I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And lo and behold, the other night, my mother gave it to me for my birthday. So
Oh,
there you go.
nice. Yeah, there's a good example. Excellent. Really good.
Yeah,
By the way,
all from a Facebook ad.
she flew past the fact that she lives in Hyannis, Massachusetts, which is right on the shoreline on Cape Cod. I mean, she lives in like one of the best places in America you could live in, and she just kind of slid over that. But I wanted to really emphasize she's in a great place.
Yes, I do. And I live literally 3 minutes from the beach.
Do you really? Oh, wow. That is
I
fabulous.
do.
Yeah. Louise and I love to go down to, we went most recently to stay in Chatham, which is just down the road from you, and had a
Yep.
blast right down. Had a nice little room on the shoreline there, and oh, just beautiful. Plus Chatham, I mean, that's like For a shopper like my wife, that's shopper's heaven because those shops there are
Yes, it
incredible.
is. Yes.
So
Oh man.
very cool stuff. Yeah. Hyannis, wow. Right now, are you near the port? Are you right near the docks?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can get to the docks from. I'm right near. Well, the docks are near the hospital, so I'm right
Right.
near. I'm on the hospital grid.
Oh, you are? Oh my goodness. Yeah, you're real
Yeah.
close.
Yes,
Wow.
I'm very close.
Yeah. Yeah. Why would you want to live anywhere else? That's the question I gotta
I
ask.
don't. I don't. When we moved here, I was like, Mom, we're staying right here. I don't want to move.
That's fabulous. That is really great.
Yeah.
What a wonderful place to live. And you
Yeah,
did
it's
surprise
great.
me. During the interview, you surprised me because you said you've never been to Martha's Vineyard. And for listeners who don't know, Martha's Vineyard is an island right off the coast of the Cape that you get to from a ferry that you take right from Hyannis. It's like it's about a 45-minute trip, something like that. And it's a wonderful island, really wonderful island. And I was blown away that you'd never been there. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, I've never been. I don't know why. Well, I don't like boats for one thing, so
Oh, well, yeah, that would be
that's probably
hard.
one
Yeah.
thing that's hindering me.
Yeah, that would do it. I could see that. If you got a thing,
Yeah.
Louise has a thing about heights. We yesterday we went up to Mount Snow, Vermont for the day to
Hmm.
meet with some friends, and we actually took the chairlift up to the top of the mountain to see the view up there and so forth. And my wife used to ski that mountain. She was a ski bum, lived there in her 20s for about 3 years.
Wow.
Really enjoyed it. But interestingly enough, and kind of sadly in a sense, she has a fear of heights. And it never
Yep.
occurred to any of us that it would be a problem for her because she used to ski all the time, right? So, we go
Hmm.
up to the top of the mountain and we're looking out at the beautiful views, and my wife is freaking out. I'm saying, Louise, are you okay?
Yeah.
And she just couldn't handle the height. Fortunately, they have a building there that you can go into. It's kind of like a warming. You can't call it a cabin. It's like a full facility, but it's a warming facility, and they serve drinks and some food in there and so forth. So she went inside there, and that helped her stabilized. But we were asking her, all four of us, there were four of us there, all of us asked, why, what's going on? You used to be able to ski this. She says, when I come up the ski lift, I would just be looking at the snow, looking for the trail down. I was never looking out at the view. Looking at the
I
view
couldn't
is
do
what
the
kicked
ski
it
lift.
off.
Oh no.
Yeah, yeah. It never occurred to us looking at the view would be the problem because she just looked at the
Yeah.
snow. That's all she ever looked at. Which trail is she going to go down, right? Never occurred to
Yeah.
us. Oh my goodness. But nevertheless, it was a good day, even though she had a little trouble with that. We had a really good time. I had a great time. I loved it up there. It was wonderful. The views were spectacular.
Yeah. See, I hate the snow, so
Do you? Oh
I
dear.
don't ski.
Well, there was no snow. I mean, this is leaf peeping season, but
Right.
but
Right.
oh my God, those views were just spectacular. I mean, visibility yesterday was probably about 30 miles, 40 miles, 50 miles, something like that. It was really, oh,
Wow.
you could see mountains far, far away. It was great. Yeah,
That's amazing.
really, really
Did you
pretty.
take a lot of pictures?
We took some. Actually, she gave me her camera, and I went up to the edge of each of the different views and took the shot and part of the camera back because she couldn't take the shots.
Right.
Oh,
I would have done the same thing.
would you? Okay, okay.
Yeah, I'm not good with heights either. I would have handed it to my brother and be like, take the pictures. Because he travels everywhere. So whenever he takes pictures of like hanging over cliffs and stuff, I'm like, I get vertigo
Just
just
looking
looking
at
at
the
the
pictures,
pictures.
yeah.
So I just, so I can't even like go on vacation with you. Like I just can't do
Oh
it.
dear. Oh yeah. Well, I know I don't know what it's like personally, but I know what it's like vicariously. Just having to help Louise
Yeah.
sometimes. When we used to live in Virginia, we lived in Connecticut until 2002, January 2003. Actually, we moved to Virginia mainly to help my parents. My parents at the time needed help to move into a senior center, so we moved down to help them out. And then we ended up staying for about 11 years. And while we were down
Oh,
there,
wow.
yeah, we stayed for quite some time. While we were down there, we were for about 10 of those years, we were living about an hour away from D.C. if there's no traffic, and there's always traffic, so that was actually 3 hours away.
Yes,
But
there is.
but when we did go into D.C., we were close enough that if family or friends came by, we always would give them the tour, right? because if you don't know the area, you want to be given the tour about how to get around and so forth. And if you've ever been to DC and ridden the metro, some of those metro stations have escalators that go way, way, way down and way, way, way up.
Woo!
Well, those would be enough to freak out anybody who's got a height issue, right? If you have an issue with being at high places, that's going to throw you off. So Louise and I worked it out pretty easily, actually. What we would do is I would get on the escalator first. She'd get behind me, and she'd bury her head in my back, and we'd just ride the escalator up that way. And then when we got to the top, I'd say, okay, we're at the top. And then she'd pull her eyes out. Oh, okay, it's safe now. That was the way we rode the escalators because she just couldn't handle the heights. Yeah. In fact, there was one time that her brother and sister-in-law and nephews came down to D.C. We gave them the tour. And I think it was Benjamin, one of her nephews, caught on pretty quickly what the issue was. So there was one point where we had an escalator, and he just went over, stood right in front of Aunt Louise. He says, you can lean into me, Aunt Louise. It was really cute. It was great. So, yeah.
Oh, it's funny you say Virginia. My sister lives in Virginia.
Oh, where about?
Virginia Beach. She's actually a police officer in Portsmouth. Yeah.
My sister and my mother currently live in Norfolk, which is one town away from Virginia Beach. Yeah, way. In fact, Louise and I were just down there a couple weekends ago because our niece Michaela got married just over the North Carolina border, and we got a chance to visit my mom and my sister. So, yeah, and we were just there a couple weeks ago.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Synchronicities happening all over the place here today, folks.
All over.
I mean, I still can't believe how this podcast came together because literally you and I interviewed for 15 minutes, something like that. It was the first time we ever talked. Yeah. We get off the phone. Mm-hmm. 1 minute later, Patty calls me, actually texts me, says she's not feeling well. I said, well, I just talked to Alyx. I wonder if she'd do a podcast at the last minute. I text you. You say, sure. And we're doing a podcast. I'm thinking, this is crazy. I mean, life doesn't usually work that way.
But it does, though.
It does. It does. Yeah. Yeah. I said that kind of tongue in cheek. I know perfectly well it does. You do a podcast 11 times a week. You know that it does. But...
And it's ironic, too, because I was talking about my nurse who comes every morning. He loves podcasts. Like, that's all he listens to.
Really?
So we talk about it every morning. Like, he listens to Joe Rogan and stuff like that. Yeah. So he was like, we were talking about earplugs for some reason. And he's like, yeah, I have to have my earplugs in the car while I'm listening to my podcast. So we were just chit-chatting about podcasts. And then your ad came up after he left, when I went on Facebook, and then here we are. So
crazy. Absolutely crazy. Yeah. So listeners know what she's talking about. I knew that Wendy was going to be leaving, and I needed to get a feel in. And I was thinking I'd probably just do what I'd done before, which is go get some law of attraction coaches, because I can always I have a really good history with that. Whenever I need somebody to fill in, literally I can find somebody new within like 48 hours, and with very little effort. But this time around, I had been thinking I wanted to kind of start mixing things up because I really wanted to emphasize the entertainment side. We always have a good time with all the podcasts, but I wanted to bring somebody in who really knew how to tell a funny line and laugh at a joke and all that kind of stuff. Kind of pick up the energy a bit. So that's what made me think to start advertising. And I decided to do it on Facebook because I knew, Facebook targeting is really good. So I could just target people who were self-described comedians. I said, well, hey, there's a great way to do it, right? Bring somebody on who knows how to tell a joke and knows how to have a good time and see where it goes. So it was an experiment. It started as an experiment to see what would happen if I reached out to comedians. And I put the ad on this weekend. You saw the ad. And then this whole sequence of events happened. And boy, I mean, if that doesn't illustrate law of attraction, I don't know what does. God.
Exactly.
It's crazy. And plus, you were actually you were the second interview today. I had another one with a gentleman who's going to be doing the Thursday podcast with me. His name is Michael Blackstone. And the way I kind of approached this when I put the ad out there was I knew I was going to get a lot of contacts. I wasn't sure how many. As it turned out, I got quite a bit more than I expected, over 36-hour period, I got 30 people saying, yeah, I'm interested. I said, whoa, okay. Well,
Yeah.
but I also decided pretty early on I was going to just let the universe kind of do the sorting for me. I wasn't going to try to interview.
Mhm.
I mean, I said I was going to interview everybody because I want to be friendly and I want to give everybody a chance. But I didn't actively think I was going to track down every single one and do an interview with everyone. I was going to let the universe deliver to me the best ones. Well, Michael called me this morning and he was the first person I spoke to, and the conversation went swimmingly. I mean, it was just
Mhm.
smooth as can be. And I was kind of expecting, I was going to run into bumps in the road. We weren't going to quite see eye to eye on stuff. No, none of that at all. It was perfect. And I said to him, well, what time slot do you want? Do you like? He says, I'd like the Thursday one. I said, okay. Well, I'm going to put you in on the Thursday one. And then I talked to you, and it was the same thing. It was just smooth as ice.
Yeah,
It was like we'd known each other for a long time. We met an hour ago.
I know. I know.
It's just crazy. But it shows you when you just trust the universe delivers exactly what you want. It's just
That's
keep the
true.
resistance out of the way. That's the thing. The resistance is what kills us. But I didn't have any
Oh,
resistance,
that's the hard part.
right? Oh yeah, that resistance will get you every time. And we've all had experience with
Yeah, it's
that.
hard. It's hard not to be a negative Nancy.
It is, and especially if it's something that is habitual, something that you've been negative on for
Yeah.
a long time, right? Or something you've been skeptical about, or frustrated about, or angry about, and you just carry it with you on and on and on. It builds up its own momentum. Oh yeah, yeah, that'll stop all kinds of
Hmm.
things and bring in things you don't want.
Yes.
Ugh, good grief!
So true.
But that's why we are all practicing to be deliberate creators. So.
Yes.
I didn't really have a topic in mind other than to introduce you, so I'm not really quite sure where to go with it. But I mean, you had not had a whole lot of time to prepare for a podcast. You were actually supposed to have a week to prepare because we weren't going to start until next Tuesday because Wendy's going to do her last show tomorrow. So you were supposed to have a
Right.
lot of time. You haven't any time to do any preparation, but I don't know when you saw the ad or when you were first thinking about it. Did you have any thoughts about what you wanted to talk about? I know you told me during the interview you want to talk about mental health. Maybe we should talk about mental health a little bit.
Okay, we can do that. I've been on all sides of it, so it's it's an interesting topic to talk about. Um, yeah, we can talk about that.
I mean, you mentioned that you've been through some issues yourself. If it's not probing too much,
Yeah.
what have you dealt with that you can talk about?
Well, on top of I was diagnosed with Asperger's very late in life. It's something that usually people are diagnosed with as children.
Okay,
And I wasn't diagnosed till I was 28.
that is
But
late.
it does happen a lot. Yeah, it does happen a lot especially with women, because we present differently. So it's not recognized in childhood.
What do you mean
So
present
that
differently?
happens a
What does
lot.
that mean?
Well, there are I want to say bullet points of traits that we carry.
Okay.
Uh, Let me think of some. Hmm. We avoid eye contact.
Oh.
We have social anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have what we call Aspie interest. That's a nickname for, we have pervasive interest. So like we are very concentrated on like one thing, and that's the only thing we like. That's the only thing we concentrate on. And that's it for us. Like anything could be going on in the world, but we concentrate on that one thing. And for
That sounds
me,
to me like a benefit
it's
rather than
TV.
I mean, seriously, that sounds like
Oh yeah, being an Aspie is definitely a
yeah.
plus.
I mean, I've long wanted to be able to just zip everything else out and focus on just one thing and not allow the interruptions in. If you have that built in, it's like, whoa, where do I get some of that stuff?
It's a blessing and a curse, because it's like you want to be able to, like for instance in school, you want to be well rounded. You want to be able to get your English, your science, your math, and all that stuff. But if your pervasive interest is science, you're not going to understand English, math, social studies, all that other stuff. It
Oh,
just
I see.
doesn't get in through your helmet.
So you just don't. It isn't like you're choosing this. It's like you're living with it, and it's kind of imposed on you almost.
Yes, it's a syndrome. So it's
Hmm.
the way it's a different operating system,
Mm-hmm.
basically. It's the way there's what they call NT brains, and then there's autism brains.
Okay.
So we're designed very differently, the way our brains function.
So can you give us an example? What I mean, you mentioned the fact that you have this super power focus, but what else?
Let's see what else. I mentioned the social anxiety. We definitely have issues with that.
Hmm.
Um,
How does that manifest? I
whereas
mean, what is that like? I mean, I know it's kind of hard to describe perhaps, but what does the anxiety come out as, or what does it feel like?
it can come out as a lot of things. It can come out as what's called stimming, which is a way that we calm our bodies down by doing something repetitively. Like for me, I like to rub my knees in a circular motion,
Oh, okay.
and that calms me down.
Mm-hmm.
But it just recenters you.
Hmm.
So, but it's not something that you're doing. No knowledge. It's not something you're knowledgeable about.
Yeah.
You're just doing it.
It's not conscious.
You know. Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
So there's that. So there's the stimming, and then there's also that some people are on the lower scale of autism and are nonverbal.
Mm.
So they have a harder time describing how they feel because they don't speak.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
luckily I'm on the higher side. So I'm not saying I'm more intelligent, but I have a better access of verbalizing
Right.
my emotions and stuff like that.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. I remember there was a
Yeah.
movie that came out a few years ago about a woman with autism named Temple Grandin, which I'm sure you're probably aware of, which I found to be a
Yes. Yes.
fascinating movie. It was probably
It is fascinating.
it is. It's probably the best introduction I've
Yep.
ever seen to really understand what it's like from the perspective of someone with autism to interact with life. I mean, I love
Well, luckily
the
there's
stuff
a
they did.
lot more out now. There's a TV show called Atypical.
Oh, really? Okay.
That's on Netflix. Yeah, it's on Netflix. It's a
Uh-huh.
very good show. It's about an autistic boy and how he's dealing with high school and graduation and all that other stuff. Um, there was a movie, actually, you might not know this, but what was that movie with who played Batman?
A lot of people. The most recent one.
the
Let's see.
most the most recent Batman. Oh, I can't think of his name. Ben Affleck. Okay,
Affleck,
so Ben
yes.
Affleck, the accountant, he was an AFME.
Oh, okay.
So the things that he did, the repetitiveness of his of the way that he dealt with how he killed people and stuff like that,
Mm.
that was an interesting movie to watch. And then you don't realize he's autistic until halfway through the movie when they flash back to his childhood.
Oh, okay.
And there's another TV show called The Good Doctor,
Uh-huh.
and that is about an autistic man who is just starting his residency at a hospital.
Oh, I think
So
my wife
that's a
was
very
watching that.
interesting show.
Yeah. I haven't seen that
Yes,
one, but I
it's a
think my
good
wife was
show.
watching it. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it's on season 2, so it just got started, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a good show.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I know I learned a lot
So
from
yeah,
the Grandin. The Grandin movie was cool. I just love the thing like when there's the swinging gate and they show the mathematical formula as the gate is opening and closing as to what the angle of open is and the rate of opening and closing. I'm thinking, wow, is that really what the autistic mind is seeing? That just blows my mind.
yep, yep, that's exactly what it's like, and
Wow.
they do that on The Good Doctor.
Oh, do they?
Like he'll see like a broken leg and he'll calculate the angle of how it was broken, and
Wow.
he can see. Yeah, it's so cool to see. It's such a good show.
Crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that blows my mind. It really does. I love
Mhm.
though at the end of that Temple Grandin movie though. I love the scene that they had where Temple and her mom happen upon a meeting of people who are parents of autistic kids, and
Yes.
it's in an era where very little is known about autism, and she speaks
Mhm.
up saying, well, I have this experience about autism, and one of the audience members says, oh, you have an autistic child? And she says, no. And everybody goes, oh. And she says, no, but I am autistic. And all the heads just snap back like, oh my God.
Yeah, yeah.
Very cool scene. That scene was really great.
My favorite scene and I think that's just me being autistic, was the scene where she figured out that if she's hugged very tightly, she can calm herself down. So
Oh,
she puts herself in
the
the
hug
cow
machine.
restraint.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
I
clever.
was like, oh, I felt that on a whole nother level. I was like, oh my God.
So do you have that same experience that being physically hugged is actually uncomfortable?
Yes.
You
Yes,
do.
it is.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't like being touched unless it's by someone I'm very familiar with.
Yeah.
And even then, I'm like, it's got to be the right moment.
What does it
And
feel
like,
like? I mean, because from another person's perspective, most of us a hug feels very comforting. It feels very calming, but apparently doesn't feel that to you. What does it feel like to you?
it's like you don't know what to do with it. You know what I mean? It's like, in our brains, it's like, I don't understand what this hug means. Like, I hug to say hello and goodbye. That's all I know hugs are for. So
Okay.
hug for comfort, I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. But thank you
Interesting.
for touching me, but please stop.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Wow. We are amazing people, we human beings, with our various
Yes,
diversities. We really are.
yes, that's true.
Just amazing. Mm. I don't even know. Normally, I'm just like full of questions. This topic is so far outside of my experience. I'm not even sure where to go with it, to be perfectly honest. So you tell me
You
what
can
what.
ask me anything. I'm an open book.
I don't doubt that. I'm just not even sure where to go with it. That's what I mean. I'm just so far outside my element. I don't even know what to do with it. What else should we know about Asperger's? Let's put it that way. What else should we know? What's good for a non-Asperger, non-autistic person to know?
There's no certain look for Asperger's.
Oh, okay.
There's no certain look for autism. Like, we all look the same. There's like you can, when you look at someone who has Down syndrome, you can tell they have Down syndrome.
The mongoloid features and
There is
such.
no
Yeah.
look. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. There's
Mm-hmm.
no look for autism. And people, they said to me when I first got diagnosed, and I was saying on Facebook, starting to join groups and starting to put myself out there as autistic, and people were like, well, you don't even look autistic, you look fine.
What
And
does
I was like,
it
but
raises
you
an interesting question. What does autistic look like?
exactly. And I just respond, well, you don't look like an idiot, but here's the conversation we're having.
Oh dear. Yeah. I don't even know how I would. I think you're right. I would have no idea what to look for in an autistic person. I think I'd have to be told that the person was autistic. Otherwise, I wouldn't know.
Exactly. The only way you would be able to tell probably is if you were familiar with the way a autistic person it goes into stimulus overload.
Mm.
Like when we react to sensory overload and start having bad reactions, and that's in panic attacks and what's the word I'm looking for? Meltdowns.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only time when you look at kids who are running around and not listening to their parents, and you think, oh, that's a bad parent, or that kid's terrible. They may be autistic and don't
Mm.
understand.
Mm-hmm.
You never know.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah. How would you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like we come with
Exactly.
labels, right? No, autistic,
Exactly.
non-autistic.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm sure we've all done that too. We're in a supermarket or whatever, and the kids
Yeah,
screaming
and
away or
they're like,
whatever.
control your kids.
Yeah, and whoever thinks that,
Mm-hmm.
I never thought about that until you mentioned that. It never occurred to me that the kid could be autistic or an Aspie. Just never occurred to me.
Yep. Exactly. You never know.
Hmm. So I guess part of your life is you are kind of an advocate for people who have a similar condition to you. You're kind of like an educator, a walking educator.
I try to be.
Yeah, I would think.
Yeah, I try to be. I mean, there's not a lot out there because we stay within our own group.
Mm-hmm.
So we only, we're online everywhere, but we only talk to each other.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it's not like we're out in the NT universe and we're like, oh, this is what autism is. I mean, there are some people like Temple Grandin who are out there advocating and doing stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of us are in our own shell, and that's all we can do.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the best thing that a non-autistic, non-ASPE person can do to relate in a way that is friendly and accepting and so forth from an autistic or an ASPE point of view? What's the best thing we can do?
Just be yourself and don't act like the person is broken.
Ah. That's good advice under any circumstance.
Because like I said before, we're not broken. We just run on a different operating system.
Right, yeah. That's good in any circumstance, really, because there is no such thing as a broken person. Yeah. I don't care who you are.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, that's probably the worst thing we can do.
They need to walk on eggshells, you know what I mean? They don't want to they don't want to start an episode. Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
if you don't have somebody in your life who has that and you already have some sort of background with it, how would you know how to interact? You don't know.
Exactly.
So, well, this is going to be good then, because first of all, our listeners will know that you have the ASPE condition. And secondly, they'll be hearing and getting to know you and learning about your perspective and so forth. That's going to be good, because this is like a way to educate the rest of the public about, okay, well, this is what I can expect from at least this one particular person with Asperger's. Okay.
Yep. And that's another thing. When you meet one person with Asperger's, you only know one person
you only
with
know
Asperger's.
One, right.
Every person everybody's different. We all react different to different things. So don't be like, oh, I have an Asperger friend. No, you have one.
You have one.
That doesn't mean you know everything.
So then I got to ask you, I mean, within the community that you are part of, which you were just describing, how do you guys interact with each other? I mean, what's your experience? Because if everybody is truly not just different people, but they have different ways that the condition manifests itself, that must be tricky too, because you're all learning constantly about how to interact with each other.
Yes, because that's another thing about being autistic is you don't have we don't understand social cues. So we have to learn how to interact with people on a daily basis, which is why I bring back to the conversation we had earlier about me running through conversations all day.
Yeah.
It's did I say that right? Did I offend anyone? Did I, it's tiring. It's tiring.
Well, I can promise you didn't offend anybody, at least not me. I can't speak for all the listeners, but no, you don't. You don't even seem slightly like an offensive person. So I don't know if that helps you, but no, I don't think I just in the limited time that I've known you, I would have a hard time imagining you offending anybody. So I think on some level you can relax on that. Whether you can actually do that on all levels, I don't know, but on some level you can relax on that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. That's what's so interesting, though. I mean, I've often talked here on the podcast about how great it is, particularly when trying to apply law of attraction as a deliberate creator and talk about all the aspects of it. It's really helpful when we look at the different perspectives. That's why I've liked having so many different co-hosts to do the podcast with.
Yeah.
And this is like a really new kind of perspective, one I had never considered bringing in, but I'm glad it's here. And I just have this feeling it's going to really just shake up the way our conversations go here on the podcast. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't know how it's going to manifest itself, but something's going to come out of it, and it's going to be cool, I think.
It's going to be cool because I see things in a whole different ball game than different people. So, yeah, like I said, different operating systems. So my brain processes things differently.
So as a law of attraction, kind of a deliberate creator, do you find yourself talking about LOA with other Aspies and autistic people?
Sometimes, because like when I'm in my Aspie groups on Facebook, a lot of the men who are not so attractive, they're like, how do I attract a woman? How do I find someone? Is it because I'm autistic that I'll never be with someone? And I was like, if you keep saying stuff like that, that's what you're going to attract. So you have to be more positive, and you have to think, there's someone out there for everyone. So eventually you're going to find your one.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just because you have a particular mental condition that our society labels in a way doesn't mean the law of attraction doesn't apply to you. The law of attraction is universal. It applies to everybody. So, of course.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Maybe more challenging for somebody who's got a condition like that because they're dealing with stuff. But, hey, we're all dealing with stuff. And you guys learn how to deal with stuff the way you need to. Why not learn to deal with it where the law of attraction is concerned and actually leverage it to your advantage? I still like the fact that you do have the ability to focus so easily. So you find something. Are you able to select what you're going to focus on, or are you kind of limited about that?
No, it's like whatever God-given talent you were given. That's it. That's for you.
Okay. Is it something that can be learned, or is it something that's really outside of the ability of the Aspie to learn?
I'm sure it can be learned, but it just came naturally to me. I just became obsessed with TV. It started off with being obsessed with one show. Then I became this broad spectrum, everything about TV.
Okay. Well, can I ask what the first program was? The one that really sucked you in?
Supernatural.
September
13th, 2005.
You even know the date. Okay.
I know the day. Because we call that Supernatural Day. It's a whole nother group I'm in now, but yeah.
Okay.
That was the day of the pilot, and from that day on, I was sucked in.
You were just hooked. Okay. What is it about TV that you like so much?
It's a way for me to escape from my world.
Oh.
So it's like how people describe books,
Makes sense. Yeah, because television is actually one of the most popular ways to use television is exactly that, just to escape from one's own world. That
exactly.
If somebody has something painful or difficult or frustrating or whatever that they're dealing with, just shut it out for a while and turn on the boob tube.
Exactly. When I don't feel like thinking, I just turn on some cartoons.
Wow, you watch cartoons? I haven't watched cartoons in ages. Years and years.
Well, but the cartoons I watch are like Family Guy and stuff like that. So they're animated,
right?
But they're not cartoons.
You're right. Yeah, they're not kids' cartoons, but they're animation.
No, they're not.
Yeah, I used to love cartoons when I was a kid, and as I look back, I ask myself why, because so many of the cartoons were violent. They were just, some of them were nasty, like the old Warner Brothers. Oh my goodness. The stuff we used to watch as kids. I wasn't into
cartoons when I was a kid. I was more into the adult shows. Like I was into like Saved by the Bell and stuff like that. Like that was my thing. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. But like now as a 35-year-old, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I will turn on the Disney Channel. Just to calm down.
Well, it makes sense because you're going to get a lot less negativity. You're going to get a happier medium just by going that way. So that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. Yeah,
kind of like what we're trying to do here, because we do provide a daily dose of happy, and we do that deliberately because we know from a law of attraction perspective that when you're in that good feeling, that what they call the high vibration place, you're doing your best attracting. So we want
that's true.
We want our listeners, right? So we want our listeners to be, and we want ourselves to be in a very high vibration place. Or if somebody comes into the podcast listening and they're not in a great place, we want to get them up a couple notches, 3 or 4 maybe if we can. Because, because that's how you end up with a better world. I think that's honestly
true.
That's my biggest motivation, Alyx. The fact that I know that we have so many listeners and the listenership is growing, and I hope it keeps growing exponentially. But I just have this dream of we're doing these shows and we're helping people feel good by focusing on good feeling stuff and bringing in humor and entertainers, comics like you and so forth, and just doing everything we can to get the vibration level up. And then I imagine what happens when we start getting to 1,000 listeners per episode, 10,000 listeners per episode, 100,000 listeners per episode, 1,000,000 listeners per episode. What happens when you unleash this army of positively thinking people on the world? I mean, it staggers the imagination, but I can only imagine it producing amazingly powerful, positive results. And that just motivates me like crazy. That's why I keep doing this. That plus the fact I just love doing it. Kind of like you with the TV. I just love doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't think
you do what you love, and it's not work.
Yes, exactly. It's not. Well, that's just it. You put your finger on it, because for years I did, the traditional way. I was nose to the grindstone. I worked the job for the money, not because I loved it. I did all that stuff, and it practically tore me apart. It was really, really rough on me, to the point where a few years ago, I was just lost. I had no idea. I was very negative, very unhappy. And actually more than a few years ago, because like I said, I first got exposed to The Secret in November 2007. And that was around the time I was really starting to hit my bottom. About in time for the financial crisis. There's like a parallel going on there. But But yeah, and then ever since then, it's been learning to climb my way out and recognizing that I needed to do something that I felt passionate about. I had never done anything I felt passionate about. I was good. I was an IT person. I was good with computers. I'm really good with them.
Yeah.
But they aren't a passion for me, which always struck me as being kind of strange. I mean, I'm really good at them, and I've been doing them for a long, long time, and yet I didn't really have this driving, oh my God, I got to get the new technology and learn how to work. So that was never me. It came easily, but it was like, how passionate was I on a scale of 10? No, 5. It wasn't that big of a deal to me, one way or another.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that passion with what it is you're doing predominantly in your life, it tears you down after time. What was a mild interest becomes drudgery. And so from that point on, it was about finding what I loved. And when I found that I loved doing this podcast, which really surprised me, perfectly honest. I kind of did it on a whim with Louise, and my brother and sister-in-law did the second episode and third episode with us, basically because we were all just starting to explore law of attraction, and we figured, well, let's do it together, and maybe a podcast is a way to get it done. Well, I was the only one who actually stuck with it, and it was one of those things where I was just surprised how much I loved doing it, and the love grew over time. So now I want it to be my career. Even though I'm quite a bit older than you, I'm 61, but even at this stage of my life,
not that much older.
Well, thank you. That's kind of you. But no,
you got about 30 years on me, but it's fine.
But even at this age, I still want to have a career that I love. I want to have something that I really enjoy doing, and we're actually getting to the point now where it is going to become possible pretty soon to actually earn a living off of it, which is going to be mind-blowing when it finally happens, after doing this for just pure fun for the last 6 years. But I'm looking forward to it.
That'll be great.
It's going to be fabulous. I can hardly wait. So I guess in a sense, what I'm describing here is a little similar to the Asperger's, in that I have learned how to focus on one thing that I really, really love. Because that's what you were describing. I mean, in a sense, yours is kind of imposed on you in terms of the way you experience it. But the love of it is, and the focus on the love is still a really big thing, right? I mean, that's what I get from you, from what you're talking about anyway.
Yes, that's exactly right.
So that just makes me wonder the one thing that I was asking about before. I imagine it's got to be possible for you to learn to focus on other stuff and to find if you like it. But I'm not sure. I wouldn't even know how to advise you how to do that.
See, it's hard because it'll never, even if we try to focus, like say for instance, I'm terrible at math. I will never be able to focus on math and get the same love I get from math that I get from TV. Well, it's internally in me. So it's not going to be like, oh, okay, now I love algebra all of a sudden, just because.
Well, I think
finally
90% of the population is with you on that, actually, because most people I found, I actually do like math, but I think most people really don't like math, and it shows. I mean, I used to, one of my first jobs out of school was as a bank teller, and as a bank teller, you actually get a lot of people who come to you who are asking you to help balance your checkbook, believe it or not. You actually would get that.
Wow, checkbooks. Those were a thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, now that was back in the day when everything was on paper. Today, of course, everything's electronic. But you would get that, and they would be totally lost. And I would actually balance their checkbook for them. And I mean, wow. I really got a firsthand feel of just how non-math most people are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, typically...
Now, see, balancing checkbooks, I always felt like that should be a skill that should be taught in school, like in life skills. I really did. Like, you need to learn these things in life skills, the things that they're taking away, like they're taking away cursive and how to do your bills and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, these are things you need to know, not algebra, algebra that you'll never use again.
Oh, that's funny. But interesting you should say that about cursive handwriting, because that's actually a primary modality in law of attraction circles. There are a lot of practices for focusing your mind on what it is that you want that include handwriting, because there's a lot of scientific evidence showing that handwriting is a way of kind of drilling and reinforcing the good stuff that you're trying to build up by doing some sort of process. So if you're trying to learn to focus on what it is that you want, handwriting can be a great way to do that. So interesting you should mention that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see, we've got about 3.5 minutes left. I'm trying to think if there's anything that we need to... Oh, well, actually, now, are you still pursuing a career as a comedian? You're listed as one, but I get the feeling that was like in your 20s and you're not really doing that anymore. Is that right?
I tell people I'm on a hiatus. I still sit back and write jokes, at home. Okay. But I haven't been on stage in years.
Okay.
I had a mental issue, so I took a step back and became agoraphobic, actually.
Oh,
so
really?
I actually hadn't left the house in a good 10 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, the other thing that you told me about during our interview was that you have your own podcast that you've been starting. You started 3 episodes ago, something like that. Is that right? I
did, yes.
Why don't you tell about that?
Cute little podcast.
Yeah. Not surprisingly, it's about what?
Surprisingly, it's about TV.
How about that? Who knew?
I decided to start it during premiere week. So as the shows premiere weekly, I talk about the different shows that are premiering that week.
Okay.
And then as the seasons get into depth, we'll talk about the actual events that are going on in the show for, people, I don't know, people who don't have cable, need to catch up. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially considering...
And then, of course, I get the inside news. So that's why the show's called Spoiler Alert, because there are spoilers in the show.
So how do you get the inside news? What's the trick there? I mean, do you like know insiders in the TV industry, or what do you do?
No, I wish I did.
Well, you probably will soon. Give it time.
Eventually, I'm sure we'll all connect. But no, I get my inside news from there's like magazines that specialize in TV. So TV Guide has their own website. Mm-hmm. TV Insider has their own website. So pages like that. Okay.
So you're going to public sources, but you're basically aggregating them and turning it into something that somebody can just listen to and say, "Oh, here's what's going on." So that's cool. That's a good service.
Exactly.
And if somebody is interested in checking out your podcast, how do they find it?
You can find the link on my Facebook page. It's not my personal Facebook page, but my TV Facebook page. It's called Alyx in Wonderland, Group for TV Fanatics.
And you better tell them how to spell Alyx, because they'll never know otherwise.
Yes, it's Alyx.
Okay, yeah. Very unusual spelling. I like it, though.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, Alyx in Wonderland, we'll have to encourage people to keep subscribing to that podcast, and that way they can get a couple doses of Alyx per week.
Exactly.
Yeah, good thing. Well, this has been a good introduction. Thank you for stepping in at the last moment. Patty will be back, of
No
course,
problem.
during the regular time next week, but you and I will get started next Tuesday afternoon. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
All
I'm looking
right.
forward to it too.
Excellent. Well, welcome on board and look forward to it. And we hope that you all will join us next time as well here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.